Welcome to All In for Estacada Schools. We'll be taking an in-depth look into the work, the data, the wins, and the fun that's happening every day in the Estacada School District. And now, your host, Superintendent Ryan Carpenter.
Hey, welcome to All In for Estacada Schools Live on Facebook. My name is Ryan Carpenter. I very proudly serve as your superintendent. Hard to believe this is our fifth All In for Facebook Live. Can you believe that the last All In Facebook watched 460 people watched this video when it reached over 600 people. So I'm just constantly amazed at this great forum for the school district to communicate some of the hot topic issues to our community and to our parents at large. Also, if you're from outside the Estacada School District, we know there's some people who are watching as well. We want to say welcome to our school district and excited to talk about some of the big things going on in our community, as I'm sure your community is facing the same challenges. So we're glad that you're all here today. And today for our Estacada community folks, especially for our all-in Facebookers who are continuously with us, this is a very big all-in communication today. I'm very excited to share it with you. So what we're going to do today, just a quick look at what All In's going to be like. First thing we're going to talk about is our hot topics. And our hot topics this week is going to be our great graduation rates. I'm so excited to talk to you more about the achievement of Estacada's children inside our school district during a wildfire and ice storm, a pandemic. It's really quite impressive. The second thing we're going to do is a brand new segment called Imagine Estacada Schools. So excited to dream with you, talk about the future of our school district as we emerge from this pandemic. And today, in this new segment, Imagine Estacada Schools, we're going to be talking about a future-focused school calendar. Yep, we're back to that school calendar conversation, and yep, everybody's going to have a lot of opinions on it, and yep, we're going to build a calendar that's going to meet the needs of today's kid and tomorrow's kid as we emerge together as an innovative public school district inside our great community. And of course, Fact or Fiction is one of my favorite segments to play. Can't have an all-in segment without that. We're going to dive into social media and we're going to see what people are gossiping or saying about the Estacada School District. And we'll tell you if that is in fact fact or fiction. So just a reminder too, this is a town hall format. And so as you watch this live, please plug in your comments, your opinions, and your questions. We want to hear all of it. The purpose of this communication is your school district and your superintendent. We're here for you to have two-way conversation. Please fire away with any questions, comments about any topic that you want more answers or information to. We are here to transparently have that conversation and talk with you about that. Now, I know not everybody has the opportunity to watch this live. So if you're watching this tonight at 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, 2 days from its live recording, please ask your questions, put in your comments. We have a great communications team who's standing by that will provide quick responses to your questions. So you don't have to be live to participate. We really do want your questions and comments throughout the process. This has been highly successful. I'm excited about it, and I just want to keep growing this to meet your needs as we partner together to make the best school district that we can. Before we get going, I do just have to celebrate something. This was pointed out to me by Christina Anderson, the principal at Clackamas River Elementary School. Of course, things go so fast these days that you don't remember really what happened just 12 months ago. But happy anniversary to our parents. It is hard to believe that on this day last year was our first day open to in-person learning. Remember, we started out in virtual distance learning due to fear and science and safety reasons of the COVID-19 virus. Your school district always worked diligently to try to open and serve its kids as soon and as safely as we possibly could. We were so proud of our staff and our logistics to be able to open our school doors to serve our kids back on campus again. That seems like it was longer than just 1 year ago, but I wanted to share that tremendous moment again with you all as we opened our doors a year ago today to serve kids back to in-person learning. And since then, it has been on the train track trying to serve our kids, keep our schools open, and make sure that we meet all of those high expectations that you hold for your school district. So happy anniversary, very crazy to see. So with that said, let's get to the question of the day.
What's your most frequently used emoji?
The old emoji. Great question. I've got to tell you first and foremost that I'm kind of old school when it comes to emojis. I think the only emoji that I actually even use in like my regular repertoire is the smiley face, but I'm not an emoji guy. I actually still do the semicolon, the dash, and then the bracket to make the sideways smiley face. It's just kind of habit. I don't know what it is because everyone else is throwing cartoons and fire things at me and things blowing up and happy birthday balloons that come across my thing. I typically use exclamation marks when I'm fired up, and I use the old school smiley face when I'm trying to at least portray that I'm smiling on my end as I'm making that text message communication. My father, on the other hand, who's obviously older, considerably older than I am, is an emoji champion, and his favorite emoji is the one like where you've got two hands up in the air, and it always drives me crazy. And so maybe that's the reason why I don't use emojis, is because my dad really uses them a lot. So that is my most used emoji. Let's go to Hot Topics. So Hot Topics is a great one today. Could not be more proud as your Chief Executive Officer, your CEO of your school district, to share this data with everyone watching both live and who are going to tune in later. The Estacada School District, as well as other school districts throughout the state of Oregon, had their last year's overall graduation rate displayed to the community publicly, to newspaper outlets, as well as just to the state in general. And I just wanted to report to you that last year, the Estacada School District reported an 87.29% graduation rate. I am so excited to share this news with you because it is, that 87% that I just shared with you is the greatest graduation rate in our school's 105-year history. It's absolutely amazing, and I just am so proud of our team, of our talented employees, of the people who just work tirelessly to help and support each and every single kid as they embark in their K-12 public education journey inside the Estacada School District. There's also a tremendous praise to our community who partners and loves its school district so much. You can feel that love and support inside our community. And of course, our parents. We could not achieve this without supportive parents who are willing to work with us as teammates to help each child get across that graduation stage. So as I share this data, I just want to give a little bit of historical context as well. Not only is 87% the best in its school history, but it really tells a tremendous story of growth. If you see this graphic here that I'm sharing with you, in 2017, the school district's graduation rate was at 54%. So really over the course of the last 5 years, and a tremendous amount of continuous improvement in hiring and retaining very talented employees to interact with your kids, your school district has achieved a 33% overall graduation rates, and again, this year reaching its historical records. Something to share very quickly is Estacada High School. So another amazing accomplishment, Estacada High School also reported an 85% on-time 4-year graduation rate. This is the highest graduation rate in Estacada High School's history as well. Now, I do want to point out, you can see that in 2020, we reported a 91% graduation rate. And although that is true, 91% of the class of 2020 walked across the graduation stage. If you'll recall, that was at the height of the springtime of COVID, and and I mean a lot of graduation requirements were relaxed to allow kids to get over that threshold. And so that 91% really, in my eyes, is an asterisk because it's not the typical state graduation rate requirements. This 85%, though, is real, and it is legitimate, and I'm so proud of the kids that made it across that threshold and the high school team that led our school district to get those kids to the finish line, and I just could not be more proud and amazed of the growth of this school district. We told you in the strategic plan that our goal was to be considered a premier school district in the state of Oregon, and I now have given you 2 data points that you can honestly say that Estacada Schools is as competitive and in the hunt with other school districts who you would deem premier. And so very excited and very proud of Estacada Schools. Just to continue to harp on the great things happening here, the graduation rate showed an 89% Hispanic graduation rate, on time 4 years. New school record, school district record. 87% of students in poverty graduated on time. These are our economically disadvantaged students, a new school district record. And lastly, another one I'm so proud of is 79% of our students who are experiencing some form of disability, be that a physical disability or a mental or emotional disability, graduated on time. Again, a new school district record. These are our historically underserved students, and our school district is doing so many intentional things to help close the gap for all of our students who walk inside our doors. And so it's just amazing to see the accomplishments that are occurring inside our school district. I could not be more proud. Right now, I think I just want to pause for a second as this is the conclusion of our Hot Topic segment. I just wanted to share with you the tremendous successes that are out there and maybe see if Maggie or you, and I have to say I can't see the comments that are coming in, and so I need to rely on our communications director, Maggie Kelly, to ramble off those questions. And so Maggie, in this case, are there any on-topic comments, questions, or things that we can talk about to help celebrate the great graduation rates of the Estacada School District?
Thank you, Ryan. It looks like we do not have any questions at this time. I want to thank, it looks like we have about 24 people watching, so I want to thank everyone watching. Remind them that you can ask any questions or put any comments in the comment section. We look forward to responding to those, and also just want to say that, wow, the graduation rates are an incredible accomplishment, and want to thank you for sharing those with us.
Yeah, and it's just so much sweeter because it's a team victory, and could not be more proud of the Estacada School District. Now you might ask, or someone might ask later, you know, Ryan, 87% is the district graduation rate, but 85% is the high school graduation rate. And I think it's an important time to remind everybody that we really have 2 schools inside our school district. We have the Estacada High School proper, but we also are partners and cooperators with Summit Learning Charter School, which is housed in our Eagle Creek Elementary School facility. Believe it or not, Summit Charter School has roughly 1,400 kids who attend that Eagle Creek facility in various times, and that charter school has just improved to become one of the top charter schools in the state of Oregon. We're so proud of our partners at Summit Charter, and they reported a 93% graduation rate on time for the high school students who went through that program as well. And so really it's the 2 graduation rates combined ultimately with some weighting that ultimately leads to an 87% overall graduation rate for the school district. So proud of Summit Charter, extremely proud of Estacada High School, and the two of them have combined to make a great overall district score. So that's the hot topics. I also want to welcome those who are watching live. You're going to want to stay for this next one, and I know others will want to quickly jump in as well. So that being said, let's go to our brand new one, and that's Imagine Estacada Schools. Here we go. So this should be a fun topic as we really just take this time and opportunity to try to see the future and plan for the vision of our great school district. Now, I'm really proud that we're here in the month of almost at the end of January, but starting this conversation with our community, with our families, and with our employees. I know a lot of other school districts who are still intensely focused on mitigating the COVID challenges, the logistical challenges in their school districts, and a lot of different public school organizations are struggling to see above the turmoil, the noise, the disruptions, and the distractions that COVID is causing on school districts. I'm so proud of our school district because really our mission, vision, and values has allowed us to lead through this pandemic, ultimately offering a best-in-class experience to your children inside our school district. That being said, though, I'm also excited because having that mission, vision, and values as our anchor, as our compass, as our North Star, allows us to start having a conversation of what do we want our school district to feel like, look like, sound like, and execute like post-pandemic, or as we emerge out of this pandemic. And it's a good opportunity just to remind you, and again, as you can see in this graphic, remind you that our school district operates on a strategic plan. And on the left-hand side of this graphic, you can actually see that our strategic plan is titled Envision Estacada Schools 2030. What do we want to be like in the year 2030? And we're using this as our compass as we try to execute our plans forward. You can see this flower petal on the right, which is ultimately the 5 core pillars inside the strategic plan, and this is ultimately our compass as we maneuver through the pandemic. And again, just a reminder, if you ever want to see how your school district is doing when it comes to the execution of the strategic plan, which, by the way, was created by the community and by the parents and ultimately approved by your elected school board officials, and this is what we are holding ourselves accountable to, ultimately to meet the needs of our community and our stakeholders, which, by the way, we're doing quite well. But if you ever want to take a look, just go to our school district website. How we did last year in the overall strategic plan is transparently there for you all to see. You can see that we've got goals and benchmarks that we're trying to hit. Last year, during COVID, we did a pretty good job hitting the benchmarks set forth for us towards the strategic plan. You can also hit that QR code right there and watch our 90-day improvement cycle rollout of all of our strategic actions to meet the needs of that strategic plan. And then on the right side, you can see that we've already got new goals established for the 2022 school year. And you can follow along with us on our progress throughout the year as we try to hit those next benchmarks. But it's important to note that really it's that strategic plan that guides us. And so this is why I'm excited to kick off this conversation with all of our families today as we collect information to help make the best decisions for what the Estacada School District will look like in the future. So today, I'm excited to talk to you about the school calendar, the Estacada School District emerging post-pandemic, and ultimately how can we continue to put our kids first and put a product together that allows the Estacada School District to continue its thriving improvement towards graduation rates. So really, as we talk about the school calendar, there's really 5 boxes in which I want to bring context to you. Ultimately, the new research that has come out through this pandemic, I want to share with you some local data as well as collecting parent voice. The need to compete and recruit and retain talent are all very critical considerations that we all need to take into accord when making our school calendar decision. So first, I want to take a moment to talk to you just a little bit about the new research that's out there, specifically when it comes to student learning outcomes. Academic improvement has also been associated with moving to a 4-day calendar week. And I think it's important to note that this conversation is really going to be heavily focused on a 4-day calendar week versus a 5-day calendar week. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about why the Estacada School District needs to make a determination in either direction. And so what I want to look at, because if you'll recall, last year we were a 4-day school week. This year we've moved back to a 5-day school week. And the academic improvement nationally regarding a 4-day school week has been associated to increased student outcome numbers. However, in a major study from the Brookings Institute, from EdWeek, and other scholarly journals, and these are things coming out mid-pandemic, the major driver of student outcomes is the time actually spent in class. So a 4-day model versus a 5-day model is actually less relevant than the actual allotted time spent in a math class, a language arts class, and so on. And so a 4-day school week, typically they have longer school days inside a 4-day school week. And so ultimately the time spent in a 4-day school week versus the time spent in a 5-day school week really washes out or is about the same over the course of an entire 12-month school year or 9-month school year for the students attending in class. However, many schools are reporting that graduation and academic growth is still increasing since switching to that 4-day calendar year. There are many factors, obviously, to these gains, which is seat time, but also relationships with staff and students is another major factor. And 4-day week has statistically proven to improve student and staff morale, ultimately affecting more positive relationships and improving student engagement. And the second one, as you can see in this graphic, is really focused on an improved student-teacher morale. And so in multiple studies, students reported participating in more school club and athletics in that 4-day week. 4-day student week, they enjoyed the opportunities to work extra days at the job that they were employed with, and they had better overall school attendance. Some school districts reported as much as a 20% school attendance improvement during the pandemic. And elementary schools in these studies have reported at least 1 hour better sleep per night, sleep habits in a 4-day week versus a 5-day week. And the research has also shown that moving to a 4-day week has increased school districts' ability to recruit teachers over other school districts. It's been proven to retain teachers higher than 5-day students a week and has significantly increased time for the professional development and collaboration, ultimately leading to an improved teaching product in the classrooms. Now, Estacada is actually pretty strong in this regard, as we spend our current Wednesdays for staff meetings, PLCs, and professional development all occur on those Wednesday afternoons. And so that's something that we're already pretty currently familiar with when it comes to teacher development. But as we look at our local data, when we look at the 4-day school week from last year, and the 5-day school week that we're currently in and have been in historically, Estacada, it's important to note, as you see here in the student learning outcomes, Estacada in the 4-day week actually achieved its highest ever graduation rate of its school district history inside that 4-day school week model, which tells me that high levels of student achievement is in fact attainable inside this model. We also talked about some of our historically underserved students, and they actually thrived inside that 4-student day week. Our Hispanic students, our students experiencing poverty, and our students with disabilities all had significant increases inside that model. What's also interesting about last year's 4-day week was that student enrollment remained stable while other school districts lost hundreds and some school districts lost thousands of kids. During the 4-day student week, our employee engagement survey also rose. Employees were more engaged. We measured them in the fall, and they showed an overall mean score of 4.07. And that increased through the 4-day school week to a 4.23, which was ultimately a 0.16 increase in overall mean score. Parent satisfaction also increased during the 4-day week from a 3.78 to a 3.99. That's up 0.21 points. So during the 4-day model, where kids went to school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, full days, our parents were more satisfied with our school district and the offerings and services that we provided. Students also reported an increase in student engagement from 3.88 to 3.94. So needless to say, we saw statistical significance in a 4-day week model. It seemed to serve our school community as a whole better, or it improved our outcomes in that model better than our traditional 5-day week model. We were also successful at retaining our great employees year over year. As you know, in public education, this has been the hardest years to be a public educator, and public schools saw major turnover. Teachers exited the field in droves, and Estacada was able to retain our employees inside this model with great success. I think it's also important to note that parents inside our community are heavily in favor of moving the Estacada School District back to a 4-day school calendar. We receive feedback in a variety of different places, but the most important places that we look are in our parent satisfaction survey, which we give out twice a year. And in the last really 3 surveys, but in the most recent one we gave in the fall, the advocation from parents to go back to a 4-day week was really quite loud, and that advocation continues to get louder. I'm seeing that in my emails. I'm seeing that when I run into parents in various places inside our community. Here are just 3 comments that I think encapsulate the general themes from parents inside our community. And you can see here the first one, the desire to go back to the 4-day week. Give the teachers the full Friday to work, collaborate, and give families that extra day together. This also makes perfect sense to decrease potential COVID exposures and decrease that day to get rid of the half-day Wednesday nonsense. I like this quote because it really focuses on supporting our teachers and the hard work that they need to do to prepare for our kids. I like this quote as an opportunity to continue to stay focused on health and safety inside the school district. And I chose this quote because we know that those half-day Wednesdays are not necessarily popular amongst the masses inside our school community. So I liked that quote because it really did thematically summarize the bulk of the feedback we get regarding our calendar and the days. You can see here, drop the half-day, 4-day school week to limit COVID. Again, give teachers the full day, give children more family time. Family time continues to be a top priority, as it should be. And so we're very excited to have this conversation to see how we can meet the needs of the family unit as well as the educational unit. And then again, you can see this last one, which I'm sure most of you have already read while I've done the talking. It's true that if you'll recall, we had a big town hall last spring, and when we surveyed families specifically about staying in that 4-day week, 80% of the families who took that survey supported staying in the 4-day week. We went back to the 5-day week because we wanted to return to some normalcy. We believed and were proven true that the data shared us that we had some gaps that we wanted to close, and so we wanted to make sure that those 5 days were there to support our students. But at the end of the day, when you look at the data, really we were able to accomplish quite a bit last year inside that 4-day week as well. But you're right to the person who was brave enough to write this last one, and I appreciate it. 80% of parents did support the 4-day week last year, and we need to come back to that again so that we can continue to meet the needs of our families. I also need to talk a little bit about the need to compete, which is the fourth bucket of this work. And when I say compete, I'm not necessarily competing or saying we need to compete with the Sandy School District or the North Clackamas School District, although I'm a competitive person and I absolutely want to compete our scores against their scores, our opportunities against their opportunities. At the end of the day, we're all public education. We're on the same team and we're trying to accomplish the same things. We have to serve and get to serve every single person that walks in our door, and we're proud of that challenge. What I mean with the need to compete is what has emerged from this pandemic is a high advocation for school choice. Lots of families in this pandemic chose to keep sending their kids to the Estacada School District. They chose to pull their kids out and enroll them in charter schools. They chose to pull their kids out and enroll them in private schools, as well as they just chose to homeschool them. And hey, to each choice, to each family is their own. We fully support family choice inside this school district, and we hope that your experience met your needs during that pandemic time. But when the pandemic is gone and all is back to, quote, normal, unquote, the Estacada School District needs to create and establish a product that families want to choose, either to stay with or to return to. What's cool is we've had a lot of families go to charter, private, and homeschools. I know many of them, a lot of them personally, and they made their choices due to religious, political, or convenient reasons. But we want them to come back. We want them to come home to their neighborhood school. And we can't just assume that that's going to happen. I don't want our school district to feel entitled that that should happen. I want us to create a competitive product that makes families want to choose to come back to the Estacada School District or to move into the Estacada community because of its great, innovative, cutting-edge, and competitive school opportunities. So my final piece to the school calendar, and then I'm excited to take a bunch of questions and comments and work through that process. And I hope that I wasn't terrible enough that you were all able to follow with me. But I do need to talk briefly about the high priority of recruiting and retaining talent when we, our community, consider what a 4-day school calendar or just what a future school calendar looks like. So national data and national research is sharing that obviously this school year has been also extremely difficult for the classroom teacher and people who are supporting the classroom teacher. It is reported right now that 25% of public education employees, from principals to teachers to bus drivers, etc., are considering leaving the industry because of the stress, social, emotional, etc., that this environment is putting on them as a professional and as a personal. That's alarming. That's something that we as a community need to think about, and that's something that I, as your superintendent, must consider when trying to put a comprehensive package together to make sure that we have a healthy, happy workforce to meet the needs of your child as they come into our schools. Another issue that is of grave concern for me, and I've shared this with you in other all-ins, is our substitute shortage. Currently, we're tracking the data. 63% of all teacher absences are being filled by our substitutes. So we have a 63% substitute fill rate. And what I mean by that is, let's say 10 teachers call in sick. 5 are sick, 1 has a sick kid that they need to stay home to, that makes 6, and 4 are in isolation due to positive COVID-19. So that's 10 employees out in 1 day. What I'm telling you is, of those 10 absences that we need to fill, only 6 of them are being filled. So essentially, we're asking our principals, other teachers, support staff to cover for those 4 teachers because we don't have a body. And so they're teaching their own duties and they're executing their own job responsibilities and somebody else's at the same time. That's a major problem for us. The same goes, and it's even worse for our support staff. So when our bus drivers call in sick, when our cooks or custodians call in sick, or our paraeducators who help in the classroom, that's being filled at a 23% rate. And so as we think innovatively about what a school calendar looks like, we need to consider what is a favorable choice for our employees that we can increase the ability to cover when people are out. And then last but not least, which is probably more important to me than it is really to anything else in this work, is we have a changing workforce. Right now, inside the Estacada School District, almost 6 out of 10 employees are from the millennial generation. So yes, the millennials are here. Don't say too many bad things about them because I'm also a millennial. But nonetheless, our demographic, the era of our workforce is shifting to a different generation. And why that's important is because the baby boomer was born with the TV in their rooms, or TV in their houses. The Generation Xer was born around computers during their time. The millennials and the Generation Zs have been born with a phone in their hands the entire time. And so we need to continue to move innovatively to meet the technological as well as just societal needs of today's generational worker. And as your CEO, your chief executive of your school district, it is one of my chief charges to make sure that I'm putting talent in front of your child each and every single day. And so as the superintendent, I need to take a look at new and innovative ways that we can recruit talent to come out to the Estacada School District in an already very competitive world. And I need to get them to Estacada, and so I need help in finding an innovative calendar that can help continue to put that talent in front of your child so they can have a competitive chance outside of our school systems and walls. So, Maggie, I know I talked a lot. This is big, this is heavy, this is a hot topic, but it's also fun. Like, I understand everyone's going to have an opinion here, and there's going to be good and bad with that opinion. I love that. I can't wait for productive dialogue inside our community about this. But I'm also just ultimately excited because we're now having future-focused conversations about the future of our school district, and I welcome that conversation any day of the week. So Maggie, I'm hoping people stayed with us and asked questions or comments. How best can we serve?
Thank you, Superintendent Carpenter. You know, I'm a little surprised. We have a pretty big audience here, but it looks like they're being pretty quiet right now, so we don't have any questions right now. I know this is a lot to sort through, so why don't we give everyone some time to process? And again, we are still welcoming questions at any time in the comments section.
Okay, we're doing good, and I do know that I'm coming pretty forward with some big stuff, and I know that that takes time to process. And so I think it's important really then to just talk about what's next. What lies next for us in terms of how a school district is going to make a decision such as this. And so I think first and foremost, we're going to continue to have ongoing conversations. We're going to look at the research. We're going to have conversations with all different groups of people. And ultimately, we're going to start sharing with you, really relatively soon, conceptual ideas of what next school year and beyond could look like for our community and our school district. I think it is important just to say first and foremost, though, I know that we all have our own personal agendas or desires of what a perfect school year would look like for me, for my family, for my personal hobbies or interests. So I want to just make sure really quickly that as we approach this conversation, the thing that's really going to drive our decision is what's best ultimately for our students. We need to make sure that our students are achieving high levels of outcomes. And in order to do that, that's going to be the bedrock of the decisions that we make, is how we best serve our students. But we also, of course, will consider parent voice inside what's best for your kids, and we'll call them our kids as well. We want to own them too, and celebrate that journey together. But like I talked about before, also what can help us keep a strong and talented workforce staying here inside the Estacada School District is also a major consideration. After we have those ongoing conversations, really at the same time, we need to have labor negotiation and contractual conversations with both of our represented associations, be that the Teachers Union and the Oregon School Employees Association, which is our support staff, our hardworking drivers, cooks, custodians, etc., nutrition services, and listen to their feedback and make sure that we're collecting all feedback as we create language that meets the needs of the worker and supports their longevity as well. And then at the end of the day, this decision, the final decision, comes back to your elected school board of directors. And so my job right now, as I kick this off officially in our all live Facebook Live, as we kick this off, my job is to make sure that I'm providing the elected executive school board of directors all of the information that I can provide them to help them make the best decisions possible and cast their vote with the best data that they have in front of them. So that's why I'm kicking off this conversation today. That's why I'm excited to continue to collect data and share those conceptual designs with our families, ultimately to give them the best look so they can make the decision that's right for Estacada today and set us up for Estacada tomorrow and where we want to be in the year 2030 with our strategic plan. My goal is to have this for our school board to vote on in March. That's the next school year's calendar in March. I also want to try to make this an expeditious process because I know that our families all have plans to make. I know that our employees all have plans to make. And so the sooner we can agree upon what our school calendar should look like, the better we can get in terms of communicating that to allow everybody to make plans to suit their needs. So that is the hot topic. Let's move to my favorite, fact or fiction, for those that are still with us. Let's play. All right, so the first topic was celebratory in the hot topics. The second topic was very serious and hard-hitting, and I can't wait for this word to get out to all of our community so we can collect those opinions and feedbacks, and you can bet that what I said in that last topic is going to be heavily discussed inside the Facebook framework. So let's pick two out today on Facebook of things that were said about us, and let's see if I can do my best to tell you if that is fact or fiction. So if you can see this post, this one came from somebody anonymously, and it said, quote, "We're installing a new turf field because our kids are afraid of getting a little muddy." That's funny, but that is false, totally false. So if you see that post or have seen that post, I would declare that as fake news. There was no consideration whatsoever in the school district's decision due to muddiness and or dirt on the uniforms. However, what was genuinely considered inside that decision to move from a natural grass field to an artificial field is safety. It is true that that field gets used heavily from soccer, high school football, youth football, and other youth organizations. And ultimately, that every blade of grass inside that field really gets utilized and it becomes very muddy. It does get muddy, but it's not muddiness is our reasoning. It's because of safety. It is no longer safe to play on a facility like that. We had multiple games canceled by referees and the Oregon OSAA because of its deemed unsafeness to play. And we know that turf fields ultimately decrease injuries, knee injuries, ankle injuries, leg injuries, and also improve overall performance. And so this is fake or false or wrong, but we made a decision based out of safety and to support our student athletes moving forward. Great one. We got one more today, which should be fun. Last facts or fiction of this week. Graduating isn't much of an accomplishment these days since the Department of Education got rid of grad requirements. That also is actually fake news. I appreciate the generality and certainty of that comment, but unfortunately, that is not correct. So it is true that the state of Oregon did reduce the Oregon State testing, so the state assessment that we take, which is known as SBAC, SBAC. They no longer use that last year as an indicator for a graduation requirement. But the credits that every child is required to get did not change. The child needs to achieve 24 high school credits in order to receive a diploma. Now, what's cool about your school district, which I'm excited, whoever made this post, I'm excited to maybe have a conversation with you so you could learn a little bit more about our school district. But because the Estacada School District is a standards-based grading and reporting school district, ultimately we're guaranteeing that your child not only has met the minimum state requirements, but has ultimately met every single 100% of the essential skills that we deem most important inside our school district. A child can only pass a class if they've demonstrated proficiency in 100% of that class's essential learning standards. So yeah, it may be true that one Department of Education requirement was relaxed last year, but at the end of the day, Estacada's kids earned it, and they earned it the real way. And those kids, that 87%, graduated on time, and they did so by meeting all Oregon State requirements. And so this is fake news. I hope this helps clarify that. And again, be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. I need you, our all-in Facebookers, to help tell our story as we change the narrative and make our school district that great premier school district. So that's Fact or Fiction. We're going to go back to that question and answers. I'm hoping we're going to get something before we go off the air live. Let's take it to Q&A. All right, Maggie, we said we'd take any question, we'd take any comment. Seems like we've got a kind of a shy group today, but maybe a couple questions will get things going. What do we got?
Awesome. It does, again, look like we have a big but quiet crowd today. We did get one question, and I was wondering, it looks like we have a little bit of that 5 o'clock group that came in a little bit late, but we appreciate you coming here today. So the question that they had was, what is changing with the calendar? Could you just summarize really quickly the changes that we are looking at potentially making for next year's school calendar?
Yeah, absolutely. Very quickly in a nutshell, I encourage you to look back for more in-depth detail, because that's what All In is going deeper with our decisions. But ultimately, as we emerge post-pandemic, we need to reevaluate and re-examine our school calendar to make sure we're meeting the needs of today's learner, we're meeting the needs of today's parent, as well as meeting the needs of today's employee. Again, we live out on the outskirts of a metro area. It's an extremely competitive environment. So what's a calendar that can meet the needs of our families post-pandemic? What's a calendar that can meet the needs of our students as we emerge post-pandemic and teach a new generation of technologically savvy learners? But also, what calendar can we create that will recruit and retain extremely talented employees so that we can put talent in front of our kids, ultimately allowing them a competitive edge as they exit from the Estacada school system. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're talking about. There are no decisions. I'm kicking off that conversation today. I'm excited to share and report out the progress as we get closer to making a final decision. I will tell you that it is, for those of you who came in late, it is overwhelming that this community, its parents, and its employees support going back to a 4-day school week with employees working on Friday, serving and supporting students at risk, potentially in some intervention ways on Friday, but also their time for professional development and our PLC teams. So really, if you think about it more like Wednesday moving to Friday is really what we have genuine consensus for. That being said, our Friday would be structured a little bit different, and that takes some work with all different stakeholders. But I would not be surprised if our conversation as we move forward goes back to that 4-day week like we were so successful in last year. So that is kind of in a nutshell what we talked about today. Thanks for coming and thanks for asking. Any others?
Yeah, another question we had is, so Fridays, if we didn't have students on campus, would we still be providing meals to students that need them? And what does that look like?
Yeah, that's our hope, actually, as we consider conceptually what a 4-day week looks like. We actually want to run bus routes. And I'm saying this out loud in a dream fashion. I'm not saying this is what it's going to be. This is my vision, and in conjunction with some other people that I've been working with. But to me, a perfect Friday would look like a couple of hours that is open and available for teachers to select students and or high school kids to drive in and get additional intervention supports from their teachers. And so that would require us to run bus routes to get those kids that either teachers select or some variation of that to get them to school, and then we'd run the bus routes to make sure we can safely get them home. Our nutrition staff would serve those kids who are on campus with food, and then we'd also go to our summer school sites where parents and or kids could pick up meals if they needed some meals for that Friday and or the weekend. And then lastly, providing time, just time for our teachers to plan for the next week, to look at the learning data and then make their own instructional adjustments based on what the students have told them through their learning measurement or their common data, and an opportunity for them to prepare for the next big week. And so I still see running all of our facilities and our operations, but I think the things that parents enjoy is Monday through Thursday would be a 4 full days. So we would eliminate that Wednesday early release. So it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of a full day. And then parents, or mainly teachers, would have the opportunity to hand select kids that need that intervention most, or multiple opportunities to demonstrate proficiency would be a dream scenario. But this is just the beginning, and there's a lot of people and a lot of hands that will touch this before we get to that. But so yes, long answer to a short question. We intend to serve meals on that day.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Carpenter, and thank you for asking that question. As you can see, we are still early in the planning stages, so we genuinely really appreciate your input and your questions. It helps us as we are starting to build this plan, so keep the questions coming. I know one question, it looks like it wasn't asked here, but we do get it commonly when we start talking about the 4-day week, is what happens on days like we just experienced with Martin Luther King Day on a Monday? What do we do on days like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So in a traditional 4-day school week, on Mondays when there are paid federal holidays, then those weeks become a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, full days of school. So really employees are paid for the Monday federal holiday, and that is a non-student day. But then again, because it's a 4-day week and we're guaranteeing those hours, ultimately those 4 days just shift to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the Monday is like the Friday, if that makes sense.
All right, thank you. Well, it looks like those are all of the questions at this time. Everyone went easy on Superintendent Carpenter this time, but we'll be definitely looking in the comment section for more questions that pop up later. And we welcome anyone to put questions in the comment section for us to answer when we're not live as well. So thank you, Superintendent Carpenter.
Great, thank you. And thank you to all of you just for being a involved member of the Estacada School District community. I know that this topic that I brought up today is going to be a topic that everybody is going to form their own opinion on, and I think that that's fantastic. Everyone should have an opinion on the offerings and the services of their local public school district. That's an honor and a badge that we wear with pride. We have a great administrative principal team. We have a great leadership team. And we have a great, committed, and devoted group of employees that truly are invested in our school district becoming great. And I hope that you can see through graduation rates, through our parent satisfaction results, through the fact that our school district has been named a top workplace for 2 consecutive years now, that we've been recognized as a model school district by different agencies, that we're very proud of the changes and improvements that we've made. This conversation about a school calendar is really the next step. How can we position our school district in an innovative way to meet the needs of tomorrow? And so as you form your own opinion, I hope that you too will consider different points of view and understand that at the end of the day, we're trying to create a model that can allow our school students inside the Estacada community, which, by the way, I have my own children inside the school system as well. How can we build something that allows them to be competitive as they leave our community? How can we create something that recruits talent to want to come out here and teach inside the Estacada School District? And how can we put something together that meets the needs of our unique yet awesome Estacada community? So thanks so much for being an all-in Facebooker. I greatly appreciate this time. This conversation is not going away, and I welcome the debate inside our great community. Thanks so much and have a great week, and continue to believe in your great school district.